So what's the story you were telling me about now about Martin Ferris from North Kerry, Ireland? Go ahead.
Well, you should say who he is.
You said it. You tell the story.
Well, I know he's a politician.
You gotta speak up now for the microphone. Please. You know he's a politician?
Yes, his party is Sinn Féin.
Okay.
I'm not sure, he represents North Kerry in the county council, is that right? Or is he higher than the county?
He's higher. He's for the whole country. He's a member of the Dáil.
Oh, he is?
Right, right.
Oh. I guess
So-
I did know that. Well, anyway, the story really isn't about him.
But it's all related. Go ahead.
Yes, I came across a story on the internet yesterday about a shooting in Ardfert in North Kerry. Shots were fired in a quiet housing estate Sunday evening, this past Sunday evening. I learned through the comments posted on the story that there had been a rape of a young girl in that community the previous month. And from what I can gather, they are somehow related, but I don't really know what the facts are. Other than that a man has been arrested, and he is a well-respected Republican, according to people who would know. I have no idea who the man is. And also the young girl that was raped comes from a well-respected Republican family.
Ooh.
Shortly after the shooting incident on Sunday evening, or Sunday night, one of the first people anyway called, I'm assuming the police were called, but maybe not, was Martin Ferris.
Okay.
And he arrived at the estate in a very short amount of time.
And what did he find?
His statement was that Sinn Féin had nothing to do with it. So, I mean,
Martin, I don't think that was quite the intent of the question put to you. I don't think anybody who was saying Sinn Féin was responsible either way for either act. But in terms of could they help anybody, facilitate in any way or any, what? It was just like politicians answer, our hands are clean.
right.
So-
Well, if I was going to give a spin on it, and that's all it would be my spin.
Right. Obviously, we all have our...
I would say that perhaps it was an attempt to go back to the way things were done in the past when Republicans took the law into their own hands, for lack of a better way to put it.
Okay, we're talking about IRA, Irish Republican Army, and talking about the struggle in Ireland and the different views as Irish Mo was talking about on the side. She doesn't want to be in front of a camera for her own reasons, but is willing to have a conversation about it. And inside all of those questions and the relationship to what's going on in America and elsewhere is who's a terrorist and when is it a struggle for freedom, and intellectual inquiry, okay? Using stories and poetry and on Ceol agus Craic, the song and the music as well. So arts, the whole quality of life issue and what freedom is about. So this is the context, and when you hear Republican, if it's Irish Republican, then it's not the Republican you'd hear of in America. But what we have in the background is what republic means going back to Plato, and it's a form of representation, a political form of government. Now, as to who's represented and how that form of representation comes about, that's where the different forms come in and the struggle, and that's how all struggles are united in that context right there. And we're talking from the point of view of a constitutional democratic republic here, and the horror of teenage girls being raped and what we do about that. An innocent child raped over there, and we don't know the story, okay? But it is happening so many times in every city, and it's as a result of drugs and the drug wars. What's going on in that front over there now? I mean, they're having the same damage over there as elsewhere. Most crimes are committed by the people involved in the criminal activity, right?
Most what?
Most crimes, I mean, you have the so-called dissident Republicans, and I don't buy into that. They aren't Republicans by any form whatsoever, by any shade whatsoever. They're deranged, they're nuts, they're psychopaths. They're using a movement for their own sick minds and do their own sick trips. There's no, my God, to put them in the same category as Connolly and right on down the line of the hunger strikers, any of those guys, it's disgraceful. You know, they're like children having tantrums. We can't get our own way, and we can't be adults about it. We're one of how many hundreds of thousands of people and millions, and I can't get my way, but I won't go about it in a mature way and work for it, put down the bullet for the ballot, and here I have a chance to put my voice up like anybody else, get a camera, go on the internet, meet with my neighbors, start their own movements, try and convince our neighbors.
You're really confusing me now, because I don't think any Republican, a true Republican, would be involved in crime, especially a crime of rape.
That wasn't where I was coming from at all. That doesn't mean that that isn't possible in that case. I have no idea what the facts are. But to say it's impossible, in this case, we can't say. We don't know either one. And or we know that she's a member of a respected Republican family, and it could be that
And so is the man arrested that
right,
fired
and
the shot.
he could be seeking revenge for her as a member of a respected Republican family.
Oh, that's what I think it is.
Well, right, that was the first thing that occurred to me.
Right.
That he was seeking revenge for what was done to that girl. You know, so if that's the case, then that's a whole different, that's the story right there.
Right, but, and in times past, the IRA would take care of criminals. They were famous for kneecapping, and I think it does still go on in parts of the country, mainly up north. But why Sinn Féin showed up on the scene and said Sinn Féin is not responsible, I don't really understand that.
Politician with a political answer, okay? So just because it's Sinn Féin doesn't mean that they're have all the answers all the time, that they're going to, not be politicians. And the same as any other group. We're dealing with the phenomenon of power corrupts, and absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely from
Well, let me ask you this then.
Lord Act and British Lord. Go ahead.
Being from that area of Ireland, I'm speaking of you, being from North Kerry,
Right.
would the people not see a feasible solution to call, if they knew who committed this rape, or new people that should at least be questioned, wouldn't they call the police?
I would pray and hope they would. Anybody who wouldn't is an accomplice to a heinous act and a crime. Simple
What
as
if that was that man's daughter, niece?
Oh, you're talking about the guy that did the shooting?
Right. Why would he?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the girl who was raped. Wouldn't they
No,
call
no,
her
no.
help? Oh,
Wouldn't the people of
I
North
missed
Cary
you.
see it reasonable if they had when such a heinous crime was committed
oh,
in
definitely.
their neighborhood?
I know some would, some wouldn't. How many on one side or the other? But I'm from there. How would I feel about it? I would find it understandable. Simple as that. I wouldn't approve of it. I would think that it should be handled. But if somebody went off in a rage over that happening to a young innocent girl,
Then why wouldn't Martin Ferris, as a politician, push the police to get to the bottom of who committed the rape, which from what I can gather is what started all this in the first place? Why would you just get on the scene and say Sinn Féin's not responsible?
I know it's absurd. Okay? It's just like ridiculous. And we just have to find out what's going on ourselves.
Well, right, we don't have the whole story. I'm only just researching it now, and it hasn't all come out yet, but I don't know. They got a big election coming up, and
But the drugs, I'm talking about the drugs and the criminal activity. That's what I was talking about, criminal activity. Most crimes over there are not committed by so-called dissident Republican. Like I said, I don't consider them Republican in any way whatsoever. They're psychopaths, okay? Just latching on to any cause they can for their own sick trips. Simple as that. So you can't serve the people. It was like some American officer described in the Vietnam War. I forget which city it was, and he said, we had to destroy the city in order to save it. And it was destroyed. He was in the midst of rubble, like the Second World War, bombed out. Amazing how we can twist and turn things in our own perverse human way to justify our behavior, you know? All contrary to fact. So that's what was happening right there. So, an issue everywhere. The young women being raped because of criminal activity, drugs, money, lust for power, all of that. The biggest problem is not having drugs, the drugs themselves, it is having them illegal. That it is what is causing the most crime. That is the ultimate irony and violence. So we need to change the environment, pull the rug right out from underneath those people everywhere by taking the crime out of drugs, regardless of where it is. For a healthy Ireland, take the crime out of drugs. For a healthy America, take the crime out of drugs. For a healthy world. Okay, so there's a civil rights issue. You're at home with a poet, Bart, and Irish Mo. So we've begun the conversation. All right, that's it for now. There's some symbol here that's flashing. I can't figure it out. Is it? It says 34 minutes recording. I'll have to look it up. All right.